The morning sunlight filtered through the glass walls of Raven Tech headquarters, a symbol of power and success in the heart of the city. Everyone moved with precision, sharp suits, polished shoes, and the air of people chasing deadlines. But in the middle of that corporate rush, a man in a gray janitor's uniform quietly mopped the floor, humming under his breath. His name was Daniel, a middle-aged single father whose eyes carried a calm wisdom that came only from a life that had seen both love and loss. Few people noticed him. Fewer still knew his story, and no one, least of all the CEO, could have guessed that before the day was over, this quiet janitor would save her life. The IT began with the sound of a child's laughter echoing down the marble hallway. Emma, the CEO's 6-year-old daughter, was waiting outside her mother's office, swinging her legs from a high chair. She was bright-eyed, with curly brown hair tied in pink ribbons and a sketchbook full of doodles. Her mother, Victoria Lane, was the youngest CEO in the company's history, a brilliant, determined woman whose days blurred into meetings, phone calls, and deadlines. She adored her daughter but had built walls of professionalism so high that love had to wait for a convenient moment. That moment never seemed to come. Daniel often saw the little girl sitting alone. He'd sometimes hand her a folded paper crane made from the cleaning checklists, earning a shy giggle and a smile. To her, he wasn't the janitor. He was Mr. Dan, the kind man who always made time to talk to her. One Thursday afternoon, chaos unfolded in the quiet hum of the office. Victoria had been working late again. Her assistant had already left. The rest of the staff were in the cafeteria celebrating a quarterly milestone. Only Emma waited outside her mother's office, drawing a picture of herself holding hands with her mom and Mr. Dan. Suddenly, the door opened with a crash. Emma's eyes widened as she saw her mother collapse, clutching her chest. The papers in Victoria's hands scattered like white feathers across the polished floor. "Mommy!" Emma screamed, rushing to her side. But her small hands couldn't lift her mother. Victoria's lips trembled, her breathing shallow. Panic filled the child's eyes as she bolted out of the office, tears streaming down her face. "Somebody help! Mom's not moving!" Her cries echoed through the hall, reaching the cafeteria where laughter died in an instant. But before anyone could react, Daniel dropped his mop and ran. His heart pounded as he followed the sound of the girl's voice. He reached the office in seconds. Victoria lay motionless beside her desk, her skin pale, her breathing weak. Years ago, Daniel had worked as a paramedic before tragedy and financial struggles forced him into simpler, quieter work. But instincts never fade. "Emma, step back, sweetheart," he said gently, dropping to his knees. He checked her pulse, then started CPR. The room filled with the rhythmic push of his hands and the sound of his steady voice. "Come on, stay with me," breathed. Employees crowded at the doorway, frozen in shock as the janitor, someone they barely noticed, took command like a seasoned professional. Minutes felt like hours until a faint gasp escaped Victoria's lips. The color returned to her cheeks. She was alive when the paramedics arrived. They found the CEO breathing steadily in Daniel's arms, his uniform soaked with sweat. Emma clung to him tightly, refusing to let go. As Victoria was carried away, she reached out and whispered weakly, "Don't leave her alone." Daniel nodded, his eyes full of quiet understanding. Later that night, when Victoria regained consciousness in the hospital, she learned the truth. Daniel had kept her alive for the critical minutes before help arrived. The staff told her how he had refused to leave, how he had comforted her daughter, and how that little girl had clung to him as if he were family. When Victoria saw him enter the hospital room, nervous, still wearing the same gray uniform, she burst into tears. "I didn't even know your name," she whispered. "And you saved my life." Daniel smiled faintly. "Names don't matter, ma'am. People do." For the first time in years, Victoria didn't see the world through ranks and titles. She saw a man who had once been invisible yet was the only one who truly saw her child. She asked him to sit beside her bed, and Emma climbed into his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck as if he were her protector. The next day, when the boardroom lights flickered to life, rumors spread like wildfire. The CEO had promoted the janitor, no, not to an office job, but to something far more meaningful. Daniel became the head of the company's new emergency response and employee welfare program, using his medical background to train others and create a safer workplace. Victoria stood beside him at the announcement, her daughter holding his hand. "Titles may define our roles," she said to the staff, her voice breaking slightly, "but kindness defines our humanity. Don't ever underestimate the quiet ones among us. Sometimes, they're the ones holding the world together." The audience stood in stunned silence before erupting into applause. And for the first time, Daniel didn't look down in modesty, he looked up, with pride. Weeks later, as they watched the sunset from the hospital garden where Victoria went for checkups, Emma leaned her head against Daniel's arm. "Mr. Dan," she whispered. "You saved Mommy. Does that mean you're my hero?" He smiled softly, eyes glistening. "No, sweetheart. You're the hero. You found the courage to ask for help." Victoria turned toward him, her voice gentle. "You saved more than my life that day, Daniel. You saved my perspective." From that day on, Daniel wasn't just the janitor. He was the man who reminded everyone that compassion and courage don't wear suits. Sometimes, they wear name tags and carry mops, but their hearts shine brighter than any corner office, and as the elevator doors closed each night, the little girl who once sat alone would wave goodbye, calling out, "See you tomorrow, Mr. Dan." He would smile and wave back, knowing that sometimes life's greatest promotions aren't found on paychecks, but in the people who finally see your worth. The story spread across the company, then the internet, inspiring millions who read about the janitor who saved the CEO. But for Daniel, it was never about the headlines. It was about a child's cry for help, a heartbeat revived, and a moment that changed how one woman and an entire company saw humanity forever.